We welcome you, Michael。好，大家請坐。喂，拍手不如拍大力啲啊！拍俾耶穌啊嘛。So clap properly 。OK， 大家請坐。因為係咁樣拍同埋積極拍係兩種拍法嘅。We want them to be real. Let me introduce you a little bit。讓我稍微再介紹一下我哋嘅 Michael 弟兄。上兩個禮拜咪見到有位 Jeff 弟兄嘅，咁佢過去呢40年咧，全個世界48個國家咧，就帶人哋翻去初代教會嘅成功嘅一個模式，即係基督同埋佢初代嘅使徒係點樣訓練門徒，點樣搞教會嘅。呢個係過咗2000年之後咧，大部分教會係唔講嘅，唔記得咗嘅，搞咗第二樣嘅。但係我哋而家有幸可以翻去啦。Michael 哥哥咧，我咧就去過佢嘅地方，佢係一位勤力嘅農夫嚟嘅，因為佢同爸爸咧有幾千畝嘅農田，係咧就係喺 Iowa 嘅地方咧種嗰啲粟米嘅，咁佢有幾千隻豬嘅，咁咧佢廿幾歲嘅時候咧，就嗰陣時都唔識咩叫衛星定位嘅 GPS 嘅係咪？佢廿幾歲嘅時候已經有間公司咧。就係發展到全世界幾百人嘅一個 GPS 嘅公司嚟嘅。咁佢用 GPS 衛星定位咧，而家就用佢嗰啲收作機啊、耕種機啊、搞嗰啲農田嗰啲咧。我同佢上過去佢嗰啲 tractor 㗎啦，就眯埋眼都得㗎。佢係即係衛星定位，知道邊度係邊度，點樣做乜嘢嘢，自己行㗎機。咁啊坐喺度傾偈。但係佢咧，其實過去呢10年咧，接咗阿 Jeffrey 弟兄嘅工作。佢係呢個 Bible Institute of Leadership Development 呢個 BILD 呢個機構咧，同埋嗰個大學佢主管嚟嘅。而家佢雖然係40幾歲，但係佢有2個博士嘅神學學位，2個碩士嘅神學學位嘅。佢唔講嘅，你唔講咧，你又唔知。咁咧就係佢最近去咗印度咧，就係去印度咧，幫咗435個人攞咗個神學博士學位嘅，所以即係嗰啲教牧學學位。That's my short introduction to you, Michael. So share with us. You're welcome.
Okay. Good to be here.
真係好啦，可以同埋你哋一齊。
For having me.
多謝你邀請我。
We will speak for a little while. Are we going to stand the whole time?
No. 佢話我哋係咪即係講得咁上下有得坐啊
？I'm trying to get my orientated. I will speak for a little bit, and what I'll talk about is I'll introduce my own what God has done in my own life, and then I will speak about why the centerpiece of Christ's plan is the church.
我咧會稍微講我嘅人生啦，神呼召我嘅生活啦，同埋講到底耶穌基督嘅計劃嘅中心點解係教會咧
？So let me start with my own story.
我講我自己個人嘅故仔先。
So we can pull the slides up.
我有個 PowerPoint 有幾張相嘅。
This first slide is this is a picture.
呢個圖畫咧係咩咧
？This is a picture of in the top left.
左邊呢個上面呢個圖畫咧
You will not see me in this top left picture because I'm in my mother's womb.
你睇唔到我，因為我喺我媽咪企起身嗰個高高地嘅女人嘅肚裏邊。
This is my father, my mother, and my 2 older sisters. And
爸爸媽媽2個大姐姐。
And I was born in a very rural. I was born in a farm field.
我咧喺美國一個農田中間出世嘅。
I was born with in my entire 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer area, there were 11 people.
我由細長大係2平方公里嘅，得11個人嘅啫。
Mostly what I saw was plants and animals.
我見到嘅如果唔係植物就係動物嘅啫。
And And in the bottom right, those are my two sisters, and I am in the middle here, and I am waiting to go to the Christian school.
我兩個姐姐啦，其實矮嗰個係我嚟嘅，中間嗰個。
And if you notice,
嗰陣時係要返一個基督教小學。
there's a little tag on my sleeve that my mother put on me to make sure I did not get lost.
我有個咁樣嘅牌嘅，我媽咪咧黏咗個牌喺度，我名牌啊，住喺邊度啊？佢話好驚我走甩。
Because I was going to be around a total of like 35 people, and I might get lost in 35 people.
因為咧，我要去到一個35個人嘅班裏邊，佢話你一定會唔知走咗去邊嘅。
But here's what happened. Here's a notable event, an event that happened in my life.
咁呢個咧就係喺我生命裏邊發生咗一啲事嚇。
When a few years after this time right here, my mother became very deathly sick.
我咧嗱，你影呢張相之後幾年咧，我嘅媽咪突然間病得好嚴重。
And for a period of 3 years, and so I was very young. I was very much a mother's boy.
我嗰陣時係媽咪個 BB 嚟噶嘛，咁我又咁細粒嗰陣時，咁媽咪又病到七彩。
And what happened is our church that we were a part of took care of every single need that we had as a family for all 3 of those years.
3年之久，我哋屋企裏邊事無大小，任何我哋屋企嘅需要係喺我哋身邊嘅教會一樣一樣提供俾我哋嘅。
All of our food,
我哋食嘅每一樣
all
嘢，
of our transportation,
我哋要出入啦，
all of the money we needed,
我哋需要嘅金錢啦，
all of the work that happened on the farm was done by the people in the church.
我哋有個農莊噶嘛，所有農莊裏邊嘅工作係教會其他弟兄姊妹幫晒我哋做。
Every night when I went to bed,
每一晚我自己有人暗我瞓覺。
I had some woman, some lady, some leading woman from the church that came in and tucked me into bed.
唔知邊個教會裏邊有個年長啲嘅姊妹咧，佢就嚟暗我瞓覺。
I can still smell them.
我仲聞到佢哋嗰陣味㗎，我仲記得啊。
When I see churches with older women, older wise women, that I just had my heart endears to them because they're the soul of the church.
我一見到喺教會裏邊有年長嘅一睇就知係做過媽咪嗰啲咧，我心裏邊好溫暖嘅，因為呢個對我嚟講改變咗我一生。
Well, I've asked myself through time, why did that happen in my life?
咁我又問主，點解你容許呢啲嘢發生喺我嘅生命呢？
And that's this reason.
就係
The next slide.
應該你睇到下一個原因啦。
And that is that the church is a
下一張，
the next slide.
仲有圖畫嗰張。
There. The church is a family.
原來神設計教會係家庭嚟嘅。
The church is not like a family.
教會唔係似家庭。
When Jesus and his apostles are writing the letters, they're not saying the church is like a family. They're saying the church is a family.
保羅寫嘅書信唔係話教會啊，你哋要似啲家庭啊。佢話唔係啊，你哋係一個家庭嚟㗎。
And so Christ's design for the church is that we are to take care of each other's burdens. We are to share each other's joys in this life.
基督嘅設計就係我哋互相承擔我哋沉重嘅擔子啦，又互相嚟到分享我哋嘅喜樂啦。
And we are to meet, we are, as we believe in Christ, we are to meet weekly with those people that believe with us, and we are meant to regularly gather with them and celebrate our new life in Christ.
我哋作為基督徒咧，就應該每個禮拜起碼有一次聚埋一齊慶祝耶穌基督俾我哋新嘅生命啦，一定要走埋一齊嘅。
And this has many, many implications that we'll talk about, but the church it's not meant to be attended. It's meant that all of us as humans and believers are to be part of Christ's family. We are to mirror what's going to happen in heaven. We're supposed to mirror that in a small way now.
我哋所謂教會唔係去翻一個教會嘅，係教會走埋一齊，聚埋一齊，叫人一睇到，你呢班人耶穌咁樣嘅。
And so at a very early age, I realized the church was not something I just went to.
我細個已經知道咧，係人係唔係翻教會嘅。
I learned in a very small rural community that a church has mothers.
我就知道細個已經知道咧，教會係有媽打嘅，
has fathers,
有爸爸嘅，
it
有
has sons,
哥哥嘅，
it has
有
daughters,
仔女嘅，
it
有
has
兒
employers,
女嘅，有人做老闆嘅
employees.，
有人做僱員嘅。
and they're my fathers and they're my mothers. And,
呢
they're
班
my-
係我嘅父親，係我母親嚟嘅。
and that's how every church
每一個教
in
會
Christ's design should function.
其實按照基督嘅設計係應該咁樣操作營運㗎。
So that's a small little bit about my childhood. I learned the Bible, and I learned the stories of the Bible from working on the farm beside my father and my grandmother.
我咧嗱，你少少知道我嘅成長係咁啦，但我係點樣學聖經嘅咧？就喺我嘅農莊裏邊，同我爸爸同埋我媽媽一齊親手作工嘅時候學嘅聖經嚟嘅。
So I was taught we would get up early in the morning. My grandmother would wake me up.
我阿婆咧一早就會叫醒我嘅。
I say I'm too
我話
tired.
好攰
It's 5 a.m.
5點咋？
And she says we must work.
佢話起身要做嘢㗎啦。
An idle mind is the devil's playground, she would say.
我話
The I assume that means what?
yeah.
An idle mind is the devil's playground. We must work so we're not idle.
我唔理我哋諗乜嘢啦。魔鬼話叫我哋即係去遊樂場得個玩字咧，唔係，我哋要親手作工。
So my grandmother, but when we were out then working, then she would teach me what she invested into me, and what she loved to talk about was the leaders of the scriptures, the leaders.
我咧同阿婆咧喺農莊裏邊好勤力做嘢嘅時候咧，佢餐餐都講咧聖經裏邊嗰啲領袖嘅人物嘅生平俾我聽嘅。
And she'd always talk about how nothing happens in the world without solid leadership.
佢就話俾我聽，呢個世界咧，除非有人作領袖，冇嘢會發生嘅。
You need leaders in the family.
你需要屋企裏面有領袖啦。
You need leaders. It's throughout scriptures. We need solid leaders.
成本聖經都有講神嘅領袖嘅。
Okay. Let me talk to you about another phase of my life, and then let's talk about.
可以講下呢個啊。我另外進到一個階段嚇。
I'll fast forward to. I went to a primary school that had 16 people.
我嘅小學咧係16個人嘅啫。
So I've spent how do I transition here?
You grew up very fast.
Yeah, God has a way, and in all of our stories, He gives us unique life stories, and those. What I'm trying to communicate is all of us are unique. All of us have unique life stories, and God wants to use those for us to engage in His plan. All of us have a unique life work. That's what I'll talk about now.
我哋咧每個人都係獨特嘅，神俾我哋每一個人咧都有個獨特嘅生命嘅畢生嘅工作嘅，人人唔同嘅。
So I was as soon after I left home, then I started with 5 other men this entity called Ag Leader.
咁咧，我好快年青長大咗咧，我又同5個人咧一齊咧開咗間公司。
And it's a technology industry in agriculture, in farming.
係農作事業裏邊嘅科技公司嚟嘅。
And what we began to do there, I enjoyed agriculture, and so I knew I wanted to do something in agriculture.
我係好中意耕種嘅，所以搞乜都係要同耕種有關係先。
But soon after gathering with more people, I realized I really wanted to be a leader.
咁咧，我有5個人嘅時候，我突然間發覺，咦，我好中意做帶領者嘅。
And so what I began to do in the business world
咁喺呢個商業社會，我開始做咩呢？
is starting to understand and starting to teach that all of us, every single human being, whether you're a Christian or not, has a life work.
我開始咧咁樣同其他人分享，我話人咧，你係咪基督徒都係人？你人咧就有一個獨特嘅畢生嘅事業嘅。
And so in the marketplace, what we would do is during our lunch for 90 minutes.
食晏晝噶嘛，我哋成班人做生意嗰啲人啊，商業社會裏邊食晏晝嘅時候有成個幾鐘頭啊嘛。
We would do 5 things.
我就會同佢哋做5樣嘢嘅。
We would share. Everyone has a life story that's unique to you.
我就問每一個人喺你嘅一生裏邊，你獨特嘅人生嘅故事係咩呢？講嚟聽下。
None of us chose where we were born, when we were born, and whom we were born to. No one.
冇人可以選擇喺邊度出世，邊個係你爸爸媽媽，你係點樣出世嘅，冇得揀。
And none of us chose the key events that happened in our life that shaped us.
亦都冇得選擇咧一啲重要嘅事情發生喺我哋嘅生命裏邊，影響我哋嘅生命嘅，你揀唔到嘅。
And so you go through an exploratory process of understanding how you have a unique life story.
咁每個人自己都要發掘一下、尋找一下，我哋係點樣走過來嘅咧？有咩事情曾經影響過我哋嘅咧？
And then you talk about how each individual has unique abilities.
咁然後我哋就每個人講講，你有咩獨特嘅才能㗎？你有咩獨特嘅神賜俾你嘅才幹㗎？
And then you begin to think about, okay, this is like a puzzle coming together. You have your unique life story, you have your unique abilities, and they come together and give you a purpose.
咁咧，你就要慢慢發掘，你有個獨特嘅成長嘅過程，你有個獨特嘅賦予俾你嘅恩賜同能力，你就開始組織問一問你獨特嘅目的係咩呢？你人生嘅目的係咩呢？
And this is true for every single human being.
每一個人呢都有咁樣嘅獨特嘅你嘅特點嘅。
And this is based, first 3, these are based on Ecclesiastes, on the Proverbs. This is based on what's called the wisdom literature in the Old Testament.
其實呢個揾到人生嘅目的嘅，全部都係舊約聖經嘅智慧書卷裏邊、箴言書啊、傳道書啊裏邊教導我哋嘅嘢嚟。
But here's the big idea, and that is we as Christians,
我哋作為基督徒咧，要搞清楚一個好重要嘅一點。
we have to help each other and we have to help people outside of our churches understand their life work.
我哋喺教會裏邊一定要互相幫助，大家揾到你嘅畢生嘅事業係咩嘅，而且一齊向外邊冇信主耶穌嘅人咧，幫助佢哋揾到你自己畢生嘅事業同埋個目標係乜嘢，目的係乜嘢。
And when I say the phrase life work, what I mean is you might have your paid work.
咩叫畢生事業咧？有啲人當然係有人出糧俾你嘅工作啦，呢啲叫有償嘅工作啦。
You may have your home life.
但係你
Your
有
homework, your
家
home life.
庭，你有家務噶嘛？家中親手做嘅工作噶嘛？
You may have your church life. You may have your friend and social group
你
life.
會有教會嘅事業噶嘛？教會嘅工作噶嘛？你 你都會走去社區裏邊服侍服務嘅工作噶嘛。
But those should all be, those are all, you should think about all of those as one thing.
你
Those
應
are
該
not
咧就係
separate.
即係我講嗰4樣嘅工作咧，其實係一樣嘢嚟㗎。
You don't have 2 lives, you don't have
你
3
冇
lives, you don't have
你冇
4
兩
lives,
個
you
生
have
命
one
㗎，
life.
你只有一條命嘅啫嘛。你嗰條命咧就係包括呢4樣嘢咯。
And so we as Christians, we have to help each other and we have to help the rest of the world, our communities, understand what their purpose is in this world.
作為基督徒，我哋有個任務，就係叫我哋所有周圍嘅人明白你喺呢個世界上面你存在嘅目的係咩咧？
So we have to, on the other side of that, then you create a strategy and you create daily and weekly and monthly and yearly habits that support your life purpose.
我哋嘅任務就係每個人自己要尋一個策略，一種計劃，安排我哋每一日我哋嘅生命生活點樣嚟到活出呢一個獨特嘅畢生嘅事業。
See, Christ wants to do much more than just save us into heaven.
耶穌嚟呢個世界唔係淨係救我哋預備去天堂噶嘛。
John 10:10, he wants to give us a full, abundant life now.
約翰福音10章10節話佢俾我哋嘅係豐盛嘅今日嘅豐盛嘅生命啊嘛。
And one of the ways we live a full, abundant life now is knowing why, every single one of us knowing why God has created us.
你要過豐盛嘅生命咩？你一定要明白神點解做我咁獨特嘅咧？我獨特嘅生命嘅目的係咩咧？你揾到咧，你就會豐盛噶啦。
But remember, this ties in with the first point, and that is,
同第一點有關係嘅就係咩咧？
and that is, God has a purpose and a plan for this world.
就係神對呢個世界係有一個計劃同埋有個目的嘅。
And all Christ followers, your unique purpose has to tie in to what Christ is doing in the world.
你作為基督嘅門徒咧，你揾到你自己嗰個獨特嘅生命嘅目的，就係因為你知道點樣同耶穌嘅成個計劃可以接軌起上嚟。
And what is Christ building? Christ is building his kingdom. And what is his kingdom? His kingdom in this age is his church.
耶穌基督要建立神嘅國，佢嘅國啊嘛，而佢嘅國具體就係透過教會，我哋呢一班人彰顯出嚟嘅。
And we'll talk about this in a little bit, but the church is not something you attend. It's
教
not
會唔係去返㗎，唔係去聚會啊。
when you look and read the New Testament, the church is not something you attend. It is not a religious ceremony.
如果你讀聖經咧，教會唔係一個宗教嘅聚集，
It's not a
唔係一
movie.
個儀式，
It's not a movie theater.
唔係戲院裏邊操作嘅嘢。
And so we'll talk a little bit that a lot of what the Christian world thinks of as church is not the church that Christ is talking about.
今日基督教會一講到教會呢個字咧，大家聯想同埋認知嘅唔係耶穌基督設計嘅教會嚟嘅。
It's a very simple gathering of people that are a family.
係好簡單嘅，就係大家一家人咁走埋一齊，咁就係教會啦。
One more point, and then we'll talk more, Hugo.
好啊，就講多一點啫。
And that's this. How does Christ expect us to fulfill and be part of the Great Commission?
咁耶穌俾咗個大使命我哋㗎嘛，佢期望我哋點樣可以完成呢個任務咧？
So if he has his church, and that meant to be a family, each of us have a life work that
首先，我哋每個人有個一生嘅工作或者事業啦，一定要知嘅。
But what is Christ's Great Commission? Matthew 28,
馬太福音28章啦，佢話
16
我俾你一個大嘅使命啦，係指
16 to
咩呢？
20
16至到20節，馬太福音28章講咗乜嘢呢？
has the Great Commission statement, yes?
呢個係好似一個使命嘅宣言嚟嘅。
Go therefore and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them everything. You know what I'm speaking of, yes?
你知啦，佢話你去啦，使萬國萬民做我嘅門徒啦，奉父子聖靈嘅名，為佢哋洗禮啦，然後凡耶穌話我吩咐你哋嘅，都教訓他們遵守啦。
But I'm here to tell you this today,
不過我今朝早要話
and
俾你
that
聽，
is Luke also gives us a great commission.
路加咧亦都將耶穌嘅大使命陳列出嚟嘅。
And you know what Luke's great commission is?
你知唔知道路加俾我哋嘅大使命係咩呢？
It's the entire book of Acts.
就係成卷使徒行傳啦。
If you want to know how the church, how Christ expects us to fulfill the Great Commission and how the church is supposed to function according to Christ's design,
如果你要知道作為教會應該個功能應該係咩呢？應該點樣生活呢？點樣組織起嚟呢？
then we will find the answers and the prescription for what we are to do in the book of Acts.
使徒行傳係提供咗非常清晰嘅指引同埋係規矩嘅。
If you look at how Luke, the literary structure from a investigative point of view, no, from a research and biblical theology point of view, you look at Acts. Acts is split up into 6 sections, 6 literary sections with these markers.
如果你想了解成個使徒行傳，到底佢係講咩呢？其實佢係28章分為6個大嘅板塊咁嘅，一個一個嘅旅程嚟嘅，6個。
And sometimes we call them 6 panels that Luke gives us. Remember, Luke did a very careful job investigating, he says in Luke 1 through 4. Maybe.
就好似呢度有6塊大嘅板一樣，使徒行傳28章呢，就係第一版呢，就講咗呢個地理啊，呢啲嘅事件啊係好齊整嘅，有個結尾嘅。
Oh, there's so much to share. I hope this is communicating. So Luke has 6 panels in Acts, and in each of those panels, he ends it with this phrase.
呢度有6句聖經嘅，呢個咧就係總結咧呢6個行程裏邊咧地理上面啊，同埋教會嘅發展咧有句説話喺度總結嘅。
So if you look, if you do a careful research on the book of Acts, on these 6 panels, you can see everything that happens in those first 6 chapters. And you can see everything that happens in the next 3 chapters, and you get an idea of the prescription of how we are supposed to function today.
就好似睇醫生配藥咁咧，嗱你食呢6劑啦，你就健康噶啦。第一劑咧就係6章7節之前發生咩事，第二劑咧就係呢個9章31節之前發生咩嘢事。
But I'll give you a 3-step summary of what you see here, and that's this.
有3樣嘢其實係總結咗呢6個行程嘅。
You see that there are disciples being made. They're being evangelized. They're being told. There is evangelism that happens. There's a message
就好
that's
似我
being
哋教
shared.
會帶咗人信咗耶穌，福音去到佢哋嗰度咧，就話你哋而家要跟耶穌啦，唔單止信耶穌啊，你係耶穌嘅門徒嚟㗎啦。第一。
And they go to city, they go to different places, but the second thing they do
第二咧就係從這城到那城，麗城去九龍城。
is leaders.
City to
funny?
city. Oh yeah, city to city. We have many cities. We have 18 cities in Hong Kong.
Is he doing a good job translating, Alex?
I am your interpreter, not interrupter.
But we often in our church, in our world today, we forget these other, we don't do these other parts, but leaders gather those people then into regular churches as families.
喺呢啲嘅唔同嘅城市裏邊咧，啲領袖咧就叫啲人聚埋走埋一齊，你哋一家人嚟㗎，你哋一家人嚟㗎。
And so you look at like Acts 2:42, and it says that they gathered regularly. They were dedicated to the apostles' teachings. They broke bread in their homes. They had fellowship, and they were dedicated to prayer. They had all things in common. That means that they were that they didn't do everything together, but it means that they were a family. They were a household.
2章42節講耶路撒冷嘅教會點樣開始㗎？就係從一個屋企裏邊有一班人一齊恒心遵守使徒嘅教訓，然後彼此嚟到大家交接，有 fellowship。第三就係一齊食一餐飯。第四彼此祈禱。一家人喺屋企裏邊嘅，係喺屋企裏邊嘅，屋企裏邊 in the household。
So, and then the third thing that you see throughout
第
is
三樣係咩咧？
is that they trained leaders deeply in the faith to start the cycle all over again.
第三咧就擠擠都一樣噶啦，就係佢哋會訓練人做領袖，然後話我正話教你做呢一個咧，你重複使用啦。
So that's maybe enough for now, but my whole life story and my life purpose is to lead leaders in duplicating today what is seen in the book of Acts.
我一生嘅呼召同埋工作咧，就係要帶領人複製我哋喺使徒行傳讀到嘅教會嘅生活形態同埋功能。
So when I walked in here and I saw people standing all up front here instead of always sitting in rows,
我見到你哋個個湧咗喺前面，企喺度咁樣敬拜主，唔係坐亂嗰張凳嗰種嘅咧。
I will tell you my immediate reaction
我
was
即刻反應到就覺得
that's a small glimpse of what it's going to look like when we get to heaven.
好似啊，將來我哋喺天上面嘅敬拜嘅一個縮影嚟嘅。
And that's what we're supposed to be doing is we're supposed to be giving each other a glimpse of what heaven will be like. I don't think when we get to heaven we're all going to be sitting in rows going like this.
咁我相信，如果喺天上面咧敬拜，肯定唔會瞌眼瞓啊，坐喺張凳嗰度嗰啲，有啲似而家呢個咁樣。
You know the first thing that we're going to do? He says it in Revelation. The first thing that we're going to do
你知道
together,
你知道喺啟示錄講天上嘅敬拜係點㗎？
we're going to have a big banquet feast.
第一就係食一餐好美味嘅大餐，
We're going to eat together.
喺天上面就一齊食飯嘅。
And so very much the church as a family is the meal. I'm gonna stop now, but the meal is so important in a church family. In most church families, there's never anything to eat.
教會嘅大家庭最重要嘅就係一齊食飯，但係好多時候咧，唔知點解教會唔食飯嘅。
And so I think back to my childhood, and the mothers would come to our house.
你知我細個係點樣成長㗎？
And they
有啲人嗰啲阿媽嚟我屋企餵我，幫我換衫、暗我瞓覺喎。
And they would open up their car and they would take food tray and then another
喺
food
佢嘅車裏
tray.
邊就一碟一碟嘅餸，一紮一紮嘅菜拎嚟我哋嘅廚房
And
嘅。
another food tray.
陣間又有一大紮嘅食物嚟到我哋屋企嘅。
And then they would come in and give me a hug.
然後佢會嚟到攬住我嘅。
And I was a small little child, and I would.
我嗰陣時好細粒噶嘛，嗰班姐姐個個呢嚟問我索我嘅。
But that story wasn't just that happened in my life, not just for me.
唔係淨係我喎。
That happened because God wanted. We are blessed so that we can be a blessing to others. That story happened so that I could experience a real family, a church that's a real family.
其實神係俾我經歷一下，教會真真正正就係咁樣嘅。等我領受咗嗰啲嘢，我識得給予俾其他人，等其他人都可以經歷啫。
Okay, let's talk about it.
OK， 我哋而家真係要講下啦。
What does that mean?
Let's do it.
Okay. You lead me then.
No.
You had questions, you said.
Shall we 俾2張凳我哋坐下啦？差唔多噶啦，大家都識噶啦。呢個6章7節、9章31節啊，12章呢個16章5節。係啊，我哋各位領袖都可以有啲嘅問題可以問下佢嘅。佢哋每個禮拜日嘅主日咧就係訓練領袖嘅，教會就係屋企嘅。
Dialogue.
大家對話。我都有啲問題，我想問你嘅。
Did you know most of the words in the New Testament?
你知唔知道新約裏邊大部分寫嗰啲嘢咧
For preaching, teaching, are all the root in Greek for all of them is the word dialogue.
所有咩？他們聚集嘅時候，保羅咩講論啊？彼得咩講論啊？或者係講道啊？其實佢原本嘅字係 dialogue 對話個字嚟㗎。
So the best way for all of us as humans to learn is actually by talking about it.
其實我哋人咧，如果要學嘢咧，係要講嚟講去、諗嚟諗去嘅，問嚟問去嘅。
So let's talk.
OK， 佢話你放馬過來。我想問下 Michael 你咧，即係你成日都講初代教會，你哋研究咗，我哋睇到佢有成功、有關鍵、有秘訣嘅。但係點解今日我哋嘅基督嘅教會好似唔明嘅，亦會有啲抗拒嘅？到底難咗我哋係咩咧？ I want to ask you, Michael. From the historical evidence, we know there are successful factors and keys to the early church impacting the world. How come the church today don't understand it and almost resist it? What is the blockage?
Wow. So what is the blockage with the global church today?
今日嘅即係世界上面嘅教會，全個世界啊，我哋都周圍去嘛，難咗我哋嘅。
Well, let's start at a very macro level.
首先即係講下大圖畫先。
The first thing to understand is that we left as the human race, we left this model. We left it about 1750 years ago.
大約1500年之前咧，我哋嘅人類咧離開咗原本呢個設計嘅耶穌嘅設計。
So we left this pattern, or you might say a set of patterns, which would be called a paradigm. We left it in about 300.
我哋咧what 300 what?
300 AD, CE.
即係話主後300年咧，人開始啲思想啊、個思維啊、做嘢嘅範式啊，即係個方式咧，開始離開咁樣嘅生活、咁樣嘅思想嘅形態添。
So while what we're talking about is quite simple, it is very different than what most people think about when they use the word church.
就係今日好多人會話，一講教會呢個字或者 church 呢個字咧，佢腦海就出現咗一啲嘢出嚟，佢就講呢啲嘢㗎啦。
So you ask what the blockage is. Part of the blockage is when you are born now, we are taught that a church around the world, no matter where I go, it typically looks like an institution.
因為你知啦，我哋由細長大，有人教你，教會咧係一個機構嚟嘅， 係個組織嚟㗎。
And so and I'm talking in broad terms
我而家
here.
講係最大嘅總的來説啦，即係普通人嘅認知，教會就係講呢啲嘢嘅。
Most churches, it's about what denomination you're part of.
你會問佢，你係屬於咩宗派啊？
You're going to sit in rows.
你哋喺邊度買㗎？一排排呢啲木凳。
And most likely, most people who attend the church will not say anything during the church.
然後烏蠅飛過咧，都會聽到嘅，就係個個喺度聽前面嗰人講嘢，咁就叫教會啦。
Most people, and I'm again speaking globally, when they go to church,
全世界啲人都話：我哋係返邊個教會噶嘛？你去一笪地方噶嘛？
99.9% of everyone is an attender.
99.9%嘅都係出席者嚟嘅啫，即係坐喺度睇嘅。
And the rest of your life is separate from the church event.
然後呢個教會嘅活動同你所有其他嘅家庭、工作、娛樂生活係分割嘅。
And so most then church leaders in the world,
所以世界上面大部分嘅教會領袖咧，
their whole function and purpose is to put on good events.
佢哋以為佢哋最大嘅功能就係組織啲活動，大家可以嚟參加咯。
And so from a macro point of view, that's the paradigm of church that we as humans have taught one another that's right.
人
We
類
say
呢
it's right.
過去呢1700年咧，就教嚟教去都係話教會就係指呢一套嘢啦。
But when you look at the New Testament,
但係如果你認真讀新約聖經咧，
you don't that model is not recognized in the New Testament.
你
It's not
揾
there.
唔到咁樣嘅生活嘅喎。
They met together regularly in homes and in workplaces.
佢哋咪喺佢哋居住嘅家居裏邊，同埋佢哋工作嘅地方裏邊搞教會咯。
But they had all things in common, and they were a household together.
佢喺一個
A family.
住所裏邊一家人咯，好似啲人嚟餵佢、啱佢瞓覺咁嘅生活就係教會咯。
A guy who did a lot of research, his name was Robert Banks.
有個叫 Robert Bank 嘅牧師
He
寫咗
wrote
本
a book
寫本書，佢話
going to church in the first century.
第一世紀返教會啊。
And he tells a nice narrative story that's full of the research behind it. But he talks about how going to church in the first century would probably look like a lot of having a dinner at many of your apartments, many of your homes.
其實就佢大量嘅研究，不過佢寫咗本書，好似古仔咁嘅，就係全部都係講一紮紮嘅人喺啲住所裏邊一齊食飯嗰啲，同埋有啲新朋友嚟嘅情景嚟嘅。
Okay, so the question was, is why do we not? What is the blockage?
即係乜嘢我就問啊嘛，咁好嘅嘢，咁樣嘅秘訣，咁清楚嘅 DNA， 點解今日冇人可以解讀嘅咩？
And the blockage is, we as Christians are taught that church is meant to be a passive system.
我哋咧有啲俾人教導咧係塞咗嘅嗰個呢個腦啊，就係話咧教會係乖乖地被動嘅唔好喐嘅嘢嚟嘅。
So that's why we as and so it's almost you almost have to go into what's it going to take and all those things next. But it's a set of patterns.
係啊，呢個係已經即係我哋俾人教導咁樣諗嘢，咁樣做嘢，出現咗一種即係好似個樣板咁嘅。好，我第二個問題，哇！問第三個問題先啦。Second question is too big 。第二個問題
What is it?
你嚟咗香港成個禮拜啦，咁你係我好朋友啦，咁我咪將我最親密嘅同我有關嘅4個團隊咧，都同你傾偈傾咗1個禮拜啦。你對我哋香港呢班人有咩期望同埋鼓勵啊？特別你對敬拜會有咩鼓勵同埋説話咧？Now Michael, you have been here 1 week, like Jeff. I introduced 4 different teams, church teams, marketplace teams, to you, to meet with you for 1 week. What word of encouragement or expectation do you have for our team, in particular, this Praise Assembly team?
Okay. Very practical.
Yeah,
Question.
there's no free lunch.
That's a good joke. That's good. Natural dialogue. 2 things.
兩樣嘢啊。
I think that I was here 4 or 5 years ago.
我4、5年前咧，你哋啱租咗呢度，乜嘢都未有裝修嘅時候，我上過嚟呢度嘅。
And you can see growth.
我睇到你哋而家有增長。
You can see progress.
因為所謂進步咧係好難睇到嘅，但係增長係睇到嘅。
And the thing about understanding from an institutional paradigm of church to a New Testament paradigm of church, it takes a season of time to understand it.
要從嗰啲機構性啊、宗派性、組織性嘅教會嘅思維，轉到去耶穌新約教嘅思維咧，係需要一段時間嘅，係一個季節性嘅轉換嚟嘅。
And so I would say on this trip, Hugo, I see more people that talk more people that are talking about it in their own words, and more people that I've seen handfuls of people that have said, I believe in this so much, I want to commit my life to this paradigm, this way. I want to commit my life to helping introduce the New Testament church back into our world today.
我喺你呢班朋友中間咧，開始聽到有啲人咁講嘅。我而家明呢樣嘢好重要，我一生要委身做呢樣嘢，幫所有其他嘅人咧回到呢一種嘅生活裏邊，即係初代教會呢個設計。Yes.
Yes. So I would say there's been. Here's the other part of that first one I would say, and that is this, as an encouragement to all of you, this is happening in pockets all over the world today.
我要鼓勵各位弟兄姊妹，我哋而家講嘅經歷緊嘅嘢，全世界都有一紮嘅人咧，係過緊咁嘅生活嘅。
I have the joy. When I grew up, I was around 11 people, and I never went further than a few miles away from home.
我長大咧，
I never
冇
did.
多過11個人，行嚟行去都個幾公里。
And for some reason in my life now, I travel to 48 different countries and get to talk to hundreds and thousands of different churches and different leaders around the world.
但係我唔知點樣神安排我從一個咁樣嘅山卡拉地方咧，去而家係不斷嘅去48個國家，同數以百計嘅領袖經常對話嘅。
But I will tell you this, and I just came from India.
我啱翻喺印度翻嚟啫嘛。
But I'll tell you this, this is how big the institutional church is in the world today.
嗱，所謂機構性嘅、宗派性嘅教會咁大啦。
But there's a piece in every place that I go of people who said, aha.
我咧去到邊度都好啦，呢啲人中間咧有一紮人咧就話啊。
In some way or another, God spoke to them in a dream. God spoke to them through leaders. God spoke to them through their husband. God spoke to them through their wife. God spoke to them through their grandmother. God spoke to them through their children. He does it in a myriad of ways.
神咧聖靈咧係透過唔同嘅方法㗎，可能佢向你喺個夢裏邊向你顯現，你老婆揞咗你好多年，你個老公同你分享咗好多年，又唔知邊個領袖咧教你啲嘅嘢，突然間叮一聲明白啦。
And the essence of the message that everyone has in common, and that is, my life purpose, they say, is to be part of reintroducing what we see in the book of Acts, what we see in the New Testament. I'm supposed to be part of that. No matter how hard it is, I'm supposed to be part of that in my sphere.
我就見到呢啲咁嘅人出現嘅，突然間佢哋話：我而家明啦，我一生嘅事業同埋工作就要幫助所有嘅人返去耶穌咧頭嗰300年裏邊佢哋嘅生活同埋佢哋嘅教導，我為此獻上我嘅生命。
So, and I see more of that here than I did 5 years ago.
5年前咧，好似冇聽到冇見到咁多，不過今次嚟咧，好似好多人講呢啲嘢啦。
Here would be the second thing, Hugo.
第二樣嘢我睇到你哋香港，特別你哋嘅團隊。
And that is at this stage of developing.
作為你哋慢慢喺度發展緊嘅，你去到一個階段今日。
And you and I talked about this yesterday some.
我哋呢幾日都傾。
At this stage, it really needs core teams that are sold out, that understand the ideas, that core teams, and it starts with individuals, but soon after it starts with individuals here, and here, they have to have a core team that is just sold out for these ideas and is really willing to dedicate their life to it. And so that's what's currently lacking.
第二樣咧，我就睇到啊，你哋仲尚需要咧，就建立一個團隊咧，親密嘅團隊，一個核心嘅團隊咧，就係個個都講話我奮身㗎，我會為呢樣嘢賣命㗎，我係同你同心㗎。尚需要出現咁樣嘅團隊，因為唔係一個人嘅嘢嚟嘅呢啲。
So transferring that from a handful of leaders and transferring that to some core teams. I see echoes of that. You have 22 teams that are ready to plant or do 22 churches or something. That is a step. You need many teams in this. Hugo, there needs to be a Hong Kong team that's just in all of those spheres.
我就睇到你4、5年前
That's sold out for the paradigm, the
4、5年
pattern.
前有幾個咁嘅人啦，但係今日就算嚟到你哋中間，我聽到好消息嘛，你哋舊年突然間做咗1年嘅訓練，你有22個團隊出嚟話，我哋唔驚啦，我哋識啦，我哋會做噶啦，而且個個都知道我哋唔係搞聚會喎，係搞教會喎。
Yes, and it's somewhat predictable, and that is the first 5 years you spend a lot of times
頭嗰5年梗係大家去播種咁啦，盡量講啲啦，講啲滲下咁啦。
spreading seeds.
散下滲下咁啦。
But after that, what typically happens is those that are sold out for the ideas, they need to form a team, and 50% of their time is spent on developing that team. Okay.
而家因為你哋都有啲團隊出現咗啦，但係最重要作為領袖，最重要團隊就係領袖訓練領袖，團隊訓練團隊。好啦，我又想問你一個問題啦，你咧成日去印度噶嘛？你師傅你啦，要
My daughter's name is Lala.
我個女就叫 Lala.
Different than Layla.
唔係 Lola. 凡物公用啊嘛，唔記得咗問咩添？你成日去印度，你師傅去咗30年，要變即係去咗咁耐啦。你喺印度咧，你講咗一個故事俾我聽嘅。你話咧有435個人咧攞咗你哋嗰啲教牧學嘅博士咧，因為個個帶住好多人嗰啲團隊領袖，但係你係有啲團隊咧係唔係幾識字嘅。你最興奮就似乎係見到一啲識即係唔係幾識字、冇乜學問嘅阿嬸、阿叔、阿姐帶教會喎，而且係好多倍增長喎。I want to ask you these questions. Of course, you help 438 Indian leaders to get their doctorate of ministry. But what excited you most is your story that you told me about a group of people who are semi-literate. They use oral traditions, train people, and it multiplied. So tell us that.
Yeah, the most exciting thing about all of this is when handfuls of you as humans can really have your minds and your heart meet and be one.
其實佢話最重要睇到就係有一班人，佢嘅思想啊，同埋佢嘅心智咧係合一咗嘅。
And yeah, what I saw in southern India in what we call the bush.
我哋喺印度南部咧，即係喺嗰啲所謂 bush。
The only meaning it's the only shelter they have is a canopy.
哦，即係住喺嗰啲簡單帳篷瞓街嗰啲人。
But in it's very tribal. They live in
啲
tribes.
村落部族嘅一種生活嚟嘅。
And in those tribes, there's often they cannot read, they cannot write.
佢哋唔係點識字嘅，唔識寫字嘅。
And you tell them the stories, you tell them what happened in the book of Acts.
但係如果你講俾佢聽《使徒行傳》發生嘅嘢咧，
And you know what they say?
你知唔知佢哋點樣講啊？
They say, we can do that.
佢話：我哋都做得到啦呢啲嘢。
If I tell them they have to have a degree, they have to have a big building, they have to have chairs, they have to sit in rows, they have to do all these things, guess what?
如果你話俾佢聽，搞教會，你要好有學問，你要租個大地方，你要一排排嘅凳向前望。佢話：我哋點樣搞啊？
They can't do it.
做唔到㗎喎。
And Christ Church is meant to be simple, transferable, and repeatable. It's supposed to be something that all humans can do any place in the world at any time until he comes back.
但係耶穌嘅教會，佢話：我翻嚟之前，我要你搞嘅教會係又簡單啦，又可以重複做啦，又容易傳遞俾別人㗎啦，即係任何人、任何時間、任何地方都搞到嘅。
So we work with a partner there then that took the first principles and brought them there for 3 years to a group of semi-literate people.
我有一紮我哋合作嘅伙伴咧，佢哋嗰班信眾咧係好多半文盲嘅，但係佢哋3年之久學呢啲首要原則。
And by the end of the time, there was one individual in particular. His name is Loud Bell in English. Loud Bell.
有我鬧標。
Loud Bell, like ding, 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 ding.
有一個阿叔咧，我哋叫佢做大鐘。
He told his different tribes of people.
大聲鐘歌咧，就向佢嗰啲老百姓講，唔同嘅部族嚟嘅。
That there was a Jesus,
首先有耶穌基督，
that you could believe on him,
可以信靠佢啦。
and that if you believe,
如果你
that
信佢咧，
you should meet regularly with
你哋
others who believe
應該同埋其他信耶穌嘅人常常聚埋一齊，
and share food with one another regularly
一齊食飯，
and talk about how Christ is changing your life.
講俾大家聽耶穌而家點樣改變緊你生命咯。
You know how many churches he started?
你知唔知呢個大聲鐘
800.
開始咗幾多個教會啊？800個咁樣嘅教會。
He started 800.
佢開始咗800紮咁嘅人。
He didn't start them individually. What he would do is he talked to about 15 men.
佢首
And
先話
those 15 men
佢有15個弟兄，15個弟兄都係同佢咁嘅款嘅。
So it's been about 10 years now.
差唔多過咗10年㗎，呢班人。
And I met with Loud Bell, and he says, "I'm just doing what my name is. I am a Loud Bell."
佢話大聲鐘哥咧就話：我 人乎其名，神叫我就大聲嘅講俾人聽。
These are semi-literate people, and so that they
半文盲嘅，你要記住。
they have one change of clothes.
得一套衫嘅啫。
They make $1 a day picking rocks.
一日賺1蚊美金嘅咋，執嘢嘅喺街。
And they start these communities, they start these churches that look like the New Testament.
但係佢話：如果新約嘅教會係指咁，照做啦，走埋一齊食飯，照埋咁樣講嚟講去咯。
And so they're giving people hope, they're giving people purpose in their life, they're
佢就
giving
將
people meaning in Christ.
盼望人生存嘅目的帶咗俾呢班人 ，and they are multiplying， 而且係不斷增長添咁。好啦，嗱，其他要問噶啦，如果唔係食晏晝就冇得問噶啦。
You don't know? In our church, in our teaching time, we have everybody ask questions from out there. We don't have to now, but
不如我代我哋長老問啦，長老都應該要問噶啦。長老最重要嘅角色係咩呢？咁你哋禮拜日早上聽講係用嚟培訓你哋啲長老同埋嗰啲有100幾個領袖嘅。點解要咁嘅意思？唔該晒，係
唔該晒。唔該晒晒。
係啦，唔該晒晒。Okay, now what is the most important role of church elders? We understand your Sunday morning, you train about 120 leaders. You use your Sunday morning to train them so that they can do churches. 咩意思咧？即係話長老最重要嘅角色係咩咧？聽講你禮拜日係早上係用嚟訓練你120個領袖嘅，咁到底有咩意思咧？
What is the importance of elders? In all the churches, it's very simple.
係好簡單嘅，所有嘅教會嚟講。
There needs to be dads and moms.
需要爸爸媽媽。
Every church.
每一個教會都需要爸爸媽媽。
And especially as you move from a mega or institutional type church, you have to have moms and dads of all the small churches.
特別係如果你習慣咗去一啲人山人海啊，所謂大嘅教會咧嘅聚會咧，你更加需要訓練好多人願意做一紮紮嘅人，幾個家庭嘅爸爸媽媽。
Because remember, the church is not like a family, it is God's household. It is God's family.
教會唔係似家庭啊，教會係家庭嚟㗎。
And so then a leader like Kevin and Jeanette, their role is to equip all the leaders, all the elders, to be good moms and dads, if you will, of all the churches.
咁作為長老，你同埋你太太 Jeanette、Kevin 長老，你最重要嘅角色就係訓練人喺屋企裏邊可以照顧幾個家庭、10個8個人咁樣嘅屬靈父母親咯。
In the book of Acts, you see essentially two types of teams.
你如果讀《使徒行傳》咧，領袖或者領袖團隊啊，係有2大類嘅。
You see a team that's always moving out, and that's Paul or Peter's team. You see them moving out.
你見到有一段團隊咧係滾水淥腳，唔喺度嘅，因為佢哋係常出去外面連結唔同嘅人嘅。
And then you see a second team.
但有第二個團隊咧
And they stay put, and they love their patience. They're known by their patience and
佢
their
哋好
love and
忍
their
耐，充
gentleness.
滿愛心，攬住你錫，同你一齊喊。
Their
咁樣
gentleness.
呢啲好温柔嘅，呢啲係牧養嘅團隊。
Just like all those mothers who took care of me when
嗰
I
啲阿
was
媽
young.
嗰啲阿媽咁樣嘅姐姐嚟湊大我，咪就係咁樣嘅人咯。教會就係咁咯。
And that's God's design until He comes back.
呢個就係耶穌翻嚟之前喺地上面佢設計嘅教會嘅樣式嚟嘅。
So elders are essential
非常重要啦。好，有冇邊個有
for
問題？
shepherding
係啊，呢個係牧養嘅
the family.
係咯，要所謂餵養咯。有冇咩問題？
Have you ever had anyone ask a question from the audience?
你哋有冇人識問問題㗎？你哋冇人識問問題。
We don't need to. I would love it if this was the first time now.
唔緊要㗎， 第一次
we don't
都
have
可以
to.
放馬過嚟啊！可以代隔離嗰個問
I
題。
also understand it's outside of your paradigm. It's outside your pattern. But is there any burning questions that
有冇
someone
啲係唔
has?
明㗎？最近你關於教會或者所謂個而家我哋做緊嘅嘢啊，有冇感覺上面唔知點解要咁嘅咧？我成日感覺到即係。
I would love to have here.
How many kinds of people are here? Let me ask you. Usually you've been to so many churches. 係咪即係我想問佢啊，即係咁樣譬如幾百人啦，通常有幾多類人嘅
What do you mean?
？I want, let's say you looking at our here many teams, but there are several kinds of people. 係咪有啲咧講咗一半你就明㗎啦？有啲咧講下明，有啲咧就係明咗都唔想參加嘅，有啲係完全唔明。So I'm just saying, are there different kinds of people? You met Pastor Chow. You have not even finished it. I got it. I understand. I want it. And then there are some people, yes, so what? And then there are some who say, I understand it, but I don't want it. Is that true?
Yeah, there's you can split us into 5 categories typically.
佢信耶穌咧唔同
Very
人嘅，
predictable.
有一睇就知嘅，度度都係咁嘅。
There'll be 2 to 5% of you that will say, "Yes,
2-3% 咧，你都未講完咋，我哋要呢只，
let's do it. Let's go."
去咯，做啊，去啊。
There'll be about the second set of you will be thinking, "Yes, but I need to know more about this, and this because it doesn't make any sense."
另外咧就係好唔係唔好，不過你可唔可以再講清楚啲啊？呢個唔知你講乜，呢個又唔知你講乜，你可唔可以講清楚啲啊？
There's a third set of you that
第
will,
三類人
after that will be, "I like it, but I am going to wait and see what Kevin and others do and how it looks in a few years from now."
我都幾中意嘅，不過可唔可以俾我睇定啲先，睇下其他人做成點先啦？其他呢啲做下先啦 ，Kevin 長老同埋其他啲家長做下先啦。
There's a fourth set of you that will
第4種人，
that your minds are thinking, "Well, I don't think so."
有啲人諗嚟諗去就係都係唔好預我咯。
But I wonder what time this is over.
其實幾時先至可以放我哋去食晏晝咧？
And then there's a final set of you that
仲有第5種人嘅，
listen and say,
佢話
"I like the way things are. I don't know if I would ever change the way I think about church."
我就認為不變成萬變啦，最好
But that's-
咩都冇改啦。
So those are typically
好
the
地
5,
地，你又講咩咧？
people, yeah. So, but that's us as humans. We
人係咁噶
change.
啦，人係有幾種人嘅，
We change. I've been
不過會變嘅喎，佢個人會變嘅喎。
I've been dealing with. I've been learning this for 30 years, and so I have we have to. Here's one of the principles. No matter who you are,
我學咗一個原則，30年呢度，
you have to be patient with everyone.
你無論同邊啲人一齊溝通咧，你都要有耐性先得，急唔到嘅。
But I will say this to you at the same time, and that is, God is doing. For some reason, He is reintroducing. During COVID days, this paradigm, this pattern was going like this, and then COVID hit, and this pattern began to go like this.
你要知道咧，我哋呢個所謂呢種思維咧，新冠肺炎之前咧係咁嘅，但係一開始新冠肺炎咧，開始上啦，而家上緊嘅。
Really for 2 big reasons, and that
兩個主要原
is
因。
people realized that we are all connected and that we need each other.
突然間就明白，原來我好需要大家嘅，我哋原來係一個共同體嚟嘅。
And that the global world, we experience, there's a massive depression, there's a massive spiritual and mental anguish, anxiety and depression, and people, the best remedy for it is people find meaning and purpose through a community of people.
就係全球性嘅集體憂鬱、集體嘅低落。原來人人都突然間發覺，只要有一個群體喺我身邊，我揾到我自己存在嘅目的，我可以參與嘅一個角色，即刻脱離憂鬱。
So no matter where you land as different types of, no matter where you land, you have to be patient with yourself,
所以你
patient
對
with
你
others.
自己都要有啲忍耐㗎，你對別人更加要有耐性添。
While at the same time, I would tell you,
但係同一時間，
none of us have much time left. Be aggressive.
冇咩時間㗎，仲等乜嘢呢？
Make your life count for what Christ is doing in a
叫
big
耶穌
impactful
俾我哋
way.
嘅不枉此生啦，各位。
And give everything that you have, everything that you can give in your life, everything, and give it to what is looking like the book of Acts in our world today. Just give everything you've got. Christ is not happy with lukewarm. He's not happy with lukewarm.
耶穌基督對不冷不熱嘅人係最忍受唔到嘅，所以全心嘅投入，一鋪壓晒落去啦。Anything you want to ask me before we go to lunch?
Yeah, oh boy.
對話啊嘛，咪成日我問你嘅。It's a dialogue. I mean, you don't ask
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, that's we didn't even model it very well. I'll have to come back.
我要下一次先，因為佢今朝早嘅表現唔係咁良佳，我都冇問題。
Hugo, why? Yeah, I have a question.
OK，我有一個問題。
Why?
你問到好先啦，如果係冇得食晏晝啊。
Why are you passionate and convinced that? I mean, why try to do this? This is a lot of work. You have to change people's. But why are you sold out for this?
佢問 Hugo 點解你會瞓身講同埋做而家呢啲嘢嘅 ？Oh, the reason is everything else don't work and very tiring, very complicated, very lonely. 我好簡單嘅啫。我咧，佢問我點解你咁瞓身咁興奮？我話其他嗰啲都唔 work 嘅。我40年見過晒好多嘅教會，好多嘅做法，好辛苦嘅，好複雜嘅，越做越難嘅，越做越吃力嘅。我哋而家做呢啲嘢，好好玩嘅，好輕鬆嘅，唔孤單嘅。So what I'm experiencing is why? Because it works. You don't feel lonely, and it's great fun. And it's not hard work. Everything else is very hard work. Look, I mean, if you have to, every church have to organize like this. Who wants to lead it except Kevin?
Does that mean we have 8 minutes left?
8 minutes. I think we should go actually. 冇問題㗎，早啲散場都好嘅，食飯好重要嘅。Michael, pray for us，為我哋祈禱啊！不如就最後尾我哋
I would love to pray for you.
係啊，咁然後早啲散，因為佢2點半要4點零坐
I
飛機翻屋企啊！
I will pray.
我哋為你祈禱。
What are you saying?
No, because you're flying at 4:30. Otherwise, we have many more questions. 我係問題青年嚟㗎，好多問題。
I need to.
Pray for
I want to
us.
pray for you, but
我
here's
要
what
為
I'm
你哋
going
祈
to
禱
do.
祈咩禱咧？
I want it to be a prayer that you can remember and go back to.
我要你記得呢個祈禱，你翻屋企要記得嘅。
So this is a prayer that Ephesians 3:14 to 21.
以弗所書3章14至到21節。
Read it. This would be a great one for you as the leaders to. But read it at home. Read it with your wife and husband. Read it with your children. Read it with your grandparents. Read it with your church.
你總之同你嘅教會、同你嘅阿公、你嘅阿婆、你嘅老婆、 你個仔女喺屋企裏邊用以弗所書3章14至到21節，你要講啊。
Oh no, I need to find it.
Do you want me to read it? 以弗所書3章14至到21節 ，14 to 21。
Yeah, it starts off with it said.
呢度因此我在父面前屈膝，天上地上全部嘅家庭都係從他得名，求他按着佢豐盛嘅榮耀，藉着佢嘅靈，叫你哋心裏邊嘅力量剛強起嚟，使基督14至到21，使基督因着你哋嘅信住喺你哋嘅心裏，叫你哋嘅愛心有根有基，能夠同埋眾聖徒一同明白基督嘅愛係何等長闊高深，並且知道咧呢個愛係過於人所能測度嘅，便叫神一切所充滿嘅充滿你們。神能夠照住佢運行嘅喺我哋心裏邊嘅大能大力，充充足足嘅成就一切，超過我哋所想所求。但願佢喺教會中，並在基督耶穌裏得着榮耀，直到世世代代，永永遠遠。阿門。
So with all the saints that have gone before us, may you be rooted with them.
好多
May your inner
我哋嘅先賢，我哋嘅信耶穌嘅人喺我哋嘅前面行嘅
May
人，
that your innermost parts be knitted together with those saints.
願你嘅心中嘅力量堅強起嚟，而且有根有基，與所有嘅聖徒行喺我哋前面嘅，或者同我哋身邊嘅一同明白神嘅愛。
May the Spirit wash over you, and may the Ephesians prayer embed in your heart and soul. Amen.
願呢個以弗所書3章呢個保羅嘅禱告藏喺你哋嘅心裏邊，成為你哋每一個人嘅禱告。奉耶穌嘅名，阿門，阿門，哈利路亞。Thank you, Michael.